back to the Common Connected podcast. This summer, I wanted to support the adults who listen to this podcast. I'm talking to the educators, the teachers, the counselors, the other mental health professionals, the occupational therapists, the speech and language pathologists, and the family members who listen because they are looking for support for their kids and teens. One thing that often happens as adults is that we tend to put our own needs in the back burner and we don't take time to rest and recharge. This summer, I want to encourage you to find coping skills that work for you. Throughout the whole summer, I'm resharing a series I did a little bit ago called Coping Skills for Adults. And really what I'm doing is going through the coping styles that I use in Coping Skills for Kids, but I'm turning it to us and thinking about what strategies will work for us, what is going to help us rest and recharge and re-energize before the beginning of the next school year. This is one of the first steps I'm taking to support the adults, so I'm also working on a book to help support the adults. If you'd like to learn more about the book or share your coping skills with me anonymously, you can visit Coping Skills for Kids, and under products there is a section called Coping Skills for Adults. There you'll find a survey that you can take and share your coping skills with me anonymously, and also you'll be able to sign up for my newsletter and get a free brainstorming sheet to help you think of your own strategies to help you rest, relax, and re-energize before the next school year. I wish you a happy and calm summer. So today's focus is really about the sensory strategies that we can use to help ourselves cope and relax and de-stress. So when I thought about this episode, I really wanted to think about using our senses in a mindful way. So we don't often have a ton of time when we are going out and about during our day to really take the time to relax and slow down. But what I like to do is try and integrate some mindful moments using my senses through the day. So I can take these like little mini breaks or like mini relaxation moments. So that's what I like to try and do. So for example, when I think about using my sense of sight, one of the things that I think about is, being able to notice different things as I'm walking around, driving around, just looking out the window in my house. And so trying to notice those things that are beautiful and different or relaxing to see. So one of the things that I noticed last night even was driving with my son from soccer. We noticed the trees being lit up in the town square because it's holiday season, and so the trees looked beautiful. And it's a new town to us, so we had not seen this before, and it was just gorgeous. And we both noticed it, and we just took a moment to really appreciate the beauty of these trees with the lights on them. And again, just this morning when I was driving my daughter down to the bus stop, the lawn was frosted and the sun was coming up. And yes, that's how early they have to get on the bus and go to school. But it looked gorgeous. And I noticed that and I said that out loud. And so I like to not only notice it, but if my kids are with me, I actually do like to mention it out loud just to say, this is really something pretty and beautiful, and let's take a moment to notice and appreciate it. So, and then something else that I like to think about is using my sense of taste. So I am a coffee drinker. I drink coffee every day. And so one of the things that I like to do is to make my first sip of coffee a mindful sip. I try to remember to do this every day. Sometimes I forget, but just to give myself that moment of focus and taking a moment to smell the coffee, to taste the coffee, and really pay attention to how wonderful it feels and how warm it is and how it smells before I get started on the busyness of the day. So before I have to get the dog out and before the kids are coming down and we're getting breakfast and lunch together and they're trying to get out to the bus on time. So using that time to take a moment to really be mindful using my sense of taste. But I also do this with other things, and you can do this with other things as well. So taking a mindful bite at lunch or dinner, or thinking about if you are a tea drinker, whether it's herbal or caffeinated, you can do the same sort of thing where you just pause and take a moment, notice how it smells and how it feels when you're holding it in your hand and taking a nice sip. And then also you can do this with other kinds of drinks too. So I think about things like whiskey or wine, and you can really be mindful when you're doing some tastings. So we lived in California for a year. So we lived in Sonoma County, which is a huge wine production area in California. So we did a lot of wine tasting. And the cool thing about wine tasting, and what I realized after doing a few, it's very mindful. So, they put the wine in front of you and you don't have to, but people typically like look at the wine, they swirl it. So there's the element of just looking, but then also sniffing it and then tasting it, and then noticing what you taste, the different kind of flavor profiles that come into play. And also a lot of times, especially in Sonoma, you might be driving by the vineyards where the grapes were grown, or sitting out and tasting by the vines. So there's something really lovely, and really you have to sort of stay present when you're doing a wine tasting. And I love that. And I think it's really fun. It's a way that my husband and I like to play and connect. And so that we do a lot of that, where we're being very mindful with our wine tasting as we go through. And I like to try different types and see all the different flavor profiles that come through. So it's kind of fun to be able to do that. Another sense that I like to use is my sense of hearing. So I love making playlists. So I tell my teenagers especially to create playlists for different moods that they have. And I practice what I preach. So I do that too. So I create playlists for if I want to be energized. I create playlists for when I want to chill out, when I want to calm down, when I want to relax, when I want to feel different things. And so there's lots of power in the music that we listen to. And I know I've recorded a couple of interviews with a couple of musicians, Sophie Garner and Ryan Judd, just recently. So I'll link to those in the show notes. But it's really fun to be able to use music in that powerful way to help influence how you're feeling. So if I'm getting ready to see a child and I am like kind of like high energy and I want to bring my energy down, I use a playlist that helps me calm down. If I am feeling a little bit low energy and I want to get a little bit higher energy to get ready to see a child that I'm going to see, I play a different playlist. So it's really fun to be able to do that. And it can be really helpful to use that sense of hearing to be able to listen to the music and change my mood. And the other thing that I like to do is listen to audiobooks or podcasts. So I know it sounds weird, but I find it soothing to listen to true crime stories that have been solved. That's something that I like. I don't like the unsolved ones. I like the solved ones. But I also listen to audiobooks. I listen to Harry Potter, especially when we were in the middle of the pandemic. I found it very soothing to listen to Harry Potter. There was a lot of stuff that was out of my control and felt unusual and weird. And there was something very soothing about listening to something that I had listened to several times before. So that's what I did a lot during, especially the early days of the pandemic, is listening to that. And then I also like Agatha Christie books, so I listen to those as well. So thinking about the different things that you can do to help yourself, using your senses to be mindful, to soothe yourself. And the other thing I just wanted to mention, when I was preparing for this episode, immediately thinking about sensory strategies, it made me think of the work of Elaine Aron and the work she's done around highly sensitive people. So she's done some research and she has noticed that there's about 15 to 20% of the population that is considered highly sensitive. And so you can find out a little bit more if you go to hsperson.com. And I was introduced to her work when I read The Highly Sensitive Child, which is a great book. But then as I'm reading it, I'm like, oh gosh, there's this whole area like highly sensitive adults and highly sensitive people. So a lot of times it tends to be people who are in helping professions tend to be highly sensitive. So teachers, educators, counselors, doctors, nurses, they tend to be highly sensitive. Artists, those are the types of jobs that they tend to gravitate towards. And so when I I was thinking about sort of the things that are sort of highlights of things that might lead to you knowing that you are a highly sensitive person or not. So some of the questions are like, are you easily overwhelmed by bright lights or strong smells, coarse fabrics, or sirens? So that's all about your senses if you get overwhelmed with that, or if things you need to withdraw and close the door, be in your bedroom, darkened room, so that you can sort of rest and recharge. Do you notice or enjoy delicate tastes or scents or works of art? And if you were a child where teachers and parents said that you were sensitive or shy, you might be a highly sensitive person. And it might be interesting if you take a look at this, self-reflective quiz. You could just take the self-diagnostic quiz over at hsperson.com to see if you fall into that category. And it's helpful to know a little bit more about yourself, because then you can make a better plan for what is going to help you cope and deal with life. And so if you know that you're a highly sensitive person and you need time to rest and recharge, you need the darkened room after something really busy, then you can better prepare yourself for that. You can sort of plan and schedule things to make it easier for yourself, so that you are recognizing what works for you as a person and what you need to be able to get yourself in a better spot and re-energized to do the work that you need to do. I hope that you've enjoyed this podcast. If you liked it, please feel free to rate it wherever you listen and share it with your friends and colleagues. And as always, don't forget about yourself. Take a few minutes, have a little fun, and have an awesome day.